And greetings. Happy Wednesday. Welcome to the Steve Deace Show here live and on demand on BlazeTV, radio, and podcast. I'm Steve Deace as Harrison Butker Week continues. Our first half Man of the Year 2024. Every day this week, one of us will be wearing a jersey testifying to the badassery that is Harrison Butker. Today, again, it is me. I'm alongside Todd and Aaron McIntyre. We're brought to you by our friends over at First Cup Coffee Company, and I want to share this note from Karen. She's not a Karen. She wants us to know that. She's just Karen. All right? Been meaning to email you guys a big thumbs up for the First Cup Coffee Company. We've been ordering our K-Cups from a coffee company since 2020 and felt, quote-unquote, comfortable using Todd's favorite word, going with the ease of the status quo and getting a fairly good price. However, in the past year, we've been getting sicker and sicker of the propaganda and progressive ideology of said company. So when your show started promoting First Cup and Aaron's great recommendation, then reading about the company ourselves, we decided to jump ship to them. The coffee is really good. The company's values and commitment to the truth and supporting our veterans, also really good. So I just wanted to say it is worth the price of what we're paying, and keep supporting great companies and standing for the truth. Again, that's Karen, but not a Karen, giving her recommendation to First Cup Coffee Company. If you want to make the switch like Karen did, go to firstcup.com, use the promo code DACE to get 10% off at firstcup.com with the promo code DACE. And if you subscribe, you'll get an additional 10% off for the life of your subscription at firstcup.com. Use the promo code DACE. All right, coming up on today's show, it's Wednesday. You know what that means. Buy, sell, or hold. Coming up a little later on, as well as the weekly prophet of woe and lamentation, Daniel Horowitz, who has discovered another interesting trend as he has been following the primary cycle around the country on the right. He told us last week that what you're seeing is we're making much more headway in taking out corporatist whores and rhinos in state legislative primaries across the country than we are in the federal primaries, and that continued last night in several states, including South Dakota. But there's another trend that he is noticing as well, and I think this is an important one to note moving forward if we want to continue this momentum. So we'll talk to him about that coming up a little bit later on. But before we get to all of that, here is Aaron's rundown of what happened while we were away.
What happened while we were away, brought to you by a border throwdown. Joe Biden unveiled executive action yesterday that caps illegal immigration at 2,500 entries per day between ports of entry. But according to Ali Bradley at News Nation, reviewing internal immigration and customs enforcement memos, illegals can still claim they feel unsafe in their home countries, and they'll be allowed to come into ours. Donald Trump is back out there for reasons, trashing one of the best congressmen in the House, Virginia's Bob Good, ahead of that GOP primary.
Vote for Hung Cao for the U.S. Senate and John McGuire to be the next congressman from Virginia's 5th Congressional District. John is running against Bob Good, who is actually bad for Virginia and who will stab you in the back like he did me.
Last night in South Dakota's state GOP primaries, at least a dozen incumbents lost their races. Property rights and so-called carbon capture pipeline projects were reportedly a huge wedge issue. And now to follow up on that unbelievable video I showed you last week in Washtenaw County, Michigan, of the man who showed up to his court hearing on Zoom over a suspended license while he was driving, during the hearing, he was driving. Well, apparently there's more to that story. The man named Corey Harris apparently had his license suspension lifted in 2022 after settling a child support dispute. But due to a clerical error between the Michigan Secretary of State's office and another county's court, that lifted suspension never actually went into effect. Hence, the recent charge for driving with a suspended license. And now a What Year Is It update. Here's Debbie Birx this morning on CNN talking about the bird flu.
We should be testing every cow weekly. You can do pooled PCR. We have the technology.
Checking in on Star Wars and the new Disney Plus show called The Acolyte. Here is the showrunner and one of the actresses in that show.
And yet people have told me that it's the gayest Star Wars, and I frankly...
You're offended?
Into it. No.
I think that Star Wars is so gay already.
Okay.
I mean, have you seen the fits? We'd be like, look how gay this is, and then send each other a reference photo.
And are you telling me, with a straight face, that C-3PO is straight?
They're a couple. That's what I think.
San Diego Padres infielder Tucupita Marcano has been banned for life from Major League Baseball for betting on baseball games. He's the first active player, to be banned from the sport in over 100 years. Marcano allegedly placed 387 baseball bets totaling more than $150,000 in October of 2022 and from last July through November with a legal sports book when he was with the Pittsburgh Pirates. And finally, this from the Babylon Bee. American voters looking forward to choosing between a convicted felon and an unconvicted felon. Yep, and that's what happened while we were away.
Aaron's montage is brought to you today by our friends over at Relief Factor. Remember back in the day when you could do all the normal things you wanted to do in a day without feeling like you were made entirely out of broken glass? Maybe those days could return. No guarantees here. But there's a chance, a pretty good one, that Relief Factor is the relief you have been waiting for. It is a drug-free supplement created by physicians who can prescribe drugs. And they realized that a lot of the drugs they were prescribing for pain just masked the pain, but didn't really go after what was causing the pain itself, which often, if you have chronic pain, is too much inflammation in your joints. So this supplement was created to do exactly that. Over the years, about 1 million people have tried the 3-week Quick Start. And at least 70% of them have seen such great results in 3 weeks or less, they've stuck around long term. So what do you got to lose for $20? Why not see if you don't see the same kind of results in 3 weeks or less when you get the 3-week Quick Start at relieffactor.com. Again, head over to relieffactor.com. Also want to ping this before I forget again. Because we're in the middle of, we're coming up on episode 2, I think is tomorrow here on Blaze TV, but the series, The Cover-Up. That Matt Kibbe and the team here at Blaze TV has done on Fauci and COVID and what went on there. And I mean, the first episode, I had a chance to see it before it came out. It's a masterpiece. I mean, it's just a phenomenal piece of work that we've done here at the Blaze. At the Blaze, if you want to make sure you don't miss this and all the other exclusive content that we do every day on Blaze TV, go to FauciCoverup.com/Deace. Use the code FauciLied to get $30 off your annual subscription to Blaze TV. That's a pretty big discount. FauciCoverup.com/Deace. Again, go to FauciCoverup.com/Deace and use the code FauciLied to get $30 off your annual subscription. Okay, let's go to Aaron's montage. Let's start really at the top there, mentioning Aaron did the paper kitty executive order that the president issued yesterday when it comes to the border. I think there's 2 things to note here about this. One of them, there's at least an implication that if you have to issue an order limiting the amount of people who are coming over the border, that implies, therefore, that those limits were being exceeded prior to the executive order, correct?
Well, yes.
Yeah. Well, if we were a sane people, yes. But that is the implication.
You're feeling me, Doc.
Yeah, that is the implication. The implication being, if you're issuing an executive order, I mean, let's bring a biblical worldview into this. I love using this example because I could use it on multiple different fronts, okay? There is no commandment in the Bible that says, when you're really thirsty, find water. That commandment does not exist, no? Okay. When your bowels are full and you feel pressure, go somewhere private and relieve yourself. Is that a commandment anywhere in the Bible?
No.
No. When hungry, eat food. No, not a commandment? No?
I don't think so.
No? Okay. You know why those things aren't commanded? Because we will instinctively just do those things, correct? You know what things have to be commanded? The things that we instinctively will not do on our own. Okay? So similarly, that's how this works here. If you are issuing an EO because you want to limit the amount of people coming over the border, well, lawfully, how many people are allowed to illegally come over the border lawfully?
Small number.
It's a very small number. In fact, it's the smallest number we actually have on the right side of the integer equation. It would be 0. Yes, I mean, 0 people are allowed to come over illegally anyway, okay? So anytime that you have to issue some form of clarification into what you're limiting, that is, at the very least, an implied acknowledgement that more than that many people were coming over the border.
This show is like, remember Eddie Murphy doing Mr. Robinson's Neighborhood? That's what this show feels like right now, like the way you're having to talk with people.
Hey, kids! Yes, I know. And not nearly as funny, unfortunately. Let's also discuss another aspect of this. essentially what Aaron described is this executive order is. The caps are there unless you feel bad. And then the caps aren't there. This is how, whenever they've, on the other side, whenever they've attempted to do any form of baby killing restriction, this is also what they want. Maybe you've heard the phrase, whenever this has come up, the compromise they've always offered is, quote, health of the mother. You've heard that phrase before? Okay.
Of course.
And all that, what that means is nothing. It means absolutely nothing. It means nothing. It just means, hey, I mean, I just don't think it would be mentally healthy for me, physically healthy for me, ergonomically healthy. I've got a vacation coming up. Whatever it is. Okay.
My chakra is in Orion.
Indeed. Whatever it may be, it could be astrologically unhealthy. Indeed. So whatever, I mean, that just means there is no restriction. Just find some health loophole. And now we should also mention, because I haven't mentioned this in several years, now's a good time. Any form of legislation that ends with the phrase, and then you can kill the baby, you have to understand, we don't have like a national prenatal registry, and I don't think any of us would be in favor of that for terrifying reasons, right? Check Vivek Ramaswamy and see if he was advocating for one of those during COVID too. But anyway, none of us are in favor of a national prenatal registry. And so whenever we've done these glorious bills on 22 weeks, 16 weeks, 57 weeks, whatever, the number is, okay? Have you guys ever noticed, well, how do we know how far along the baby is? Who tells us this? You ever bother to ask yourself that question? I mean, how do we know? Huh. Yeah, the abortionist tells you. Yeah, the abortionist does. They tell you. Yeah. I'm sure Kermit Gosnell over there in Pennsylvania told the truth. I'm sure he told the truth about how far along every single one of those women were, Todd, right? Right. Now first we went Eddie Murphy, now we're Nipsey Russell. Yes.
Diversity is our strength, Steve.
It is. So that's just a little digression and aside. Okay. But anyway, this is common on the other side. And what they count on is the stupidity of the American people. And so far they've been very successful with that. I can just see the normies now. Oh, yeah, that's fine. They're just on the border and they're putting a cap on it. So he's doing something. So somebody's doing something about it. Somebody's doing something. I can just see it now. Indeed. Good times. I don't have any energy left for Debbie Birx, man. I just don't. Pretty much all the things I have left to say about Debbie Birx would get me charged with a felony. All right? I don't have anything left. I don't. I'll just repeat this again. She should have already been put on trial to be hung by her bedazzled scarf. With conviction, of course, if she was convicted, of course.
But we have the testing this time, Steve.
Yeah.
We've built the better mousetrap.
Yeah.
We can do it.
I don't. At this point, we'd be better off if the Republican Congress held no more hearings on COVID. We would be better off. We got this. All right. The group of us that were in the Rebel Alliance pretty much pushed back and stopped this on our own. How much help did we get from the Republicans in Congress?
Those sound bites aren't going to make themselves, though, Steve.
Indeed. We'd be better off, frankly, if they just go back, just go pass some more omnibus bills. We got this. We'll take care of it. We'll deal with it. Okay. I mean, after what went on earlier this week with them and Fauci, we're bringing Debbie Birx back. Okay. We'll deal with this ourselves. Take our own trash out. Okay.
You just don't trust Mike Johnson's biblical worldview. Shame on you.
No, I don't. I trust mine, but I don't trust his. Yeah. Let's discuss this. Well, I want you guys to imagine something. Imagine you have spent the first half of a year, you spent more time in a courtroom than in your own home. And in those courtrooms, they have on one end attempted to fabricate the ability to confiscate much of your own wealth. In another courtroom, they used the testimony of a woman that was such a flake that CNN was like, we can't put her back on the air again. And they use that to give you a massive punitive fine. And now they've just convicted you of 34 felonies that carry with them a maximum prison sentence of 4 years each. Which means you could potentially, it's not impossible or inconceivable at all, die in a prison cell. That's where you would spend the rest of your life. That's been what your year has been thus far, right?
Correct.
And then imagine you're staring down the barrel of that. But you're like, you look at your friends and you look at your family and you look at your attorneys and say, hold up. I got to check out for a few minutes. I got to shitpost this guy on Twitter. Oh, yeah, okay. All right, man. Sure, why not? YOLO. Cool. Cool. Go for it. Yeah, we'll be here when you get back, you know? Still going over the appeals. Yeah, well. We'll be here when you get back, I guess. That's essentially what Trump did yesterday. That's exactly what occurred. He's going to lose that primary, by the way. This isn't even going to work. He's going to lose. I've seen the polling data in that race. He's probably going to lose. So not only is he not going to exercise his grievance against Bob Good, who is one of the best members of Congress we have now, I will tell you that is a... Lindsey Graham, I'm not sure, goes down that far. That's a low, low bar. Okay? That's like an octave that Isaac Hayes can't reach. Okay? Wolfman Jack could not get to that, could not get there. Okay? James Earl Jones was like, that's a voice I can't do. Okay? That's how low the bar is. But Bob Good does clear it and should get credit for that. Fair. So let me take a time out. This is the most important election of all time. I have to win or America is over. I could go to prison for 100 years. But guys, I just need a minute. I got to put this obscure man on blast. Most people don't even know who he is. I got to put this guy on blast one more time. I'll be right back. Okay. Lesbians in space. Let's do that. Why not? We got time. Dude, we got time in the midst of the most important election of our lifetimes. Facing over 100 years in prison, crossing every Rubicon. Crossed every Rubicon. The Rubicon screaming, stop crossing us, please.
We did it twice, up a hill both ways.
Yes.
In the snow.
Yeah, 5 feet of it, in fact. But we got time to shitpost some obscure member of Congress one more time. So, I guess we've got time to talk about Star Wars Acolyte going Rainbow Jihad, right? We got time.
What's gayer, the WNBA or Star Wars?
I mean,
discuss.
Now that's actually a good hook. That is actually a good hook. And what you see in that clip, by the way, that Aaron showed, you have to understand this worldview. Now the retconning. By the way, Anthony Daniels and Kenny Baker could not stand each other. They weren't gay lovers. The characters weren't gay lovers. And the actors actually did not like each other. Okay. Nevertheless, did you see what went on there? The desire now, it's not good enough that we've quote unquote progressed, quote unquote evolved, quote unquote enlightened, quote unquote advanced to the point of accepting this moving forward. We now must go back and retcon things. We have to desecrate them. Why? Because their true father is a desecrator. That's why. Their true father is a desecrator. It's what he does. He looks to desecrate things. That's what the enemy does. He looks to soil them. He's a true stained glass window smasher. He's a nihilist iconoclast. He's the end of Romans 1, which we'll get to maybe at some point this year in our study. These are people who delight in creating new ways to do evil and encouraging others to do the same. It's not just enough now. You need to understand. And I think this even plays into the Caitlin Clark conversation yesterday. I think this plays into the soft woke church conversation yesterday. There are still many people. I had a conversation yesterday. My goodness. I wish I could tell you what it was. I can't. I'm sworn to secrecy. But maybe the most successfully based one of them personalities on our side called up a little birdie of mine and just acted like this whole thing in New York and all these trials, it's just all a joke, and they're not really going to go through with it as they're going through with it. Meanwhile, while we still won't accept how real this is and believe that there's some form of excellence that will immunize us from this. No, and no. Nope. There is no point where the woke, nagging bigots associations players are finally going to say, you know what, that was actually a real good check we got from Caitlin this year. We're going to let this whole thing go. No. I know that we you know why we think that? Because that's what we do. Hey, the pews were full. We don't maybe have to preach all that difficult stuff. Check's cleared. Oh, I'm acceptable. Oh, I've got a platform. Oh, we're making money. I guess I don't have to preach that stuff. See, we're hirelings. And so we think that that's what everyone else eventually will do too. Same mistake that we made in the Middle East after 9/11. Oh yeah, we'll just bring KFC, internet porn, and Britney Spears to Iraq, and they'll be just like us, but in Arabic, right? And what ended up happening? They made it very clear they have no interest in being like us. None. They're not like us. These are true believers. It's not a game to them. Not a grift. It's not an angle. And they're not just in search of a talking point. This is a conquest, folks. And I don't know how many more institutions they have to topple, how many more people they have to assassinate, either literally or virtually. I don't know what else more they have to do. How many more old ladies to put in prison? How many more of our presidential candidates to put in prison? When will we believe our own talking points? When will this happen? They're laughing at you. They're retconning your beloved characters and myths, soiling them, desecrating them, and they're proud of it. You might even say they've got pride in it. They can't wait to do it It's not a joke. It's a cause that is they are deeply devoted to. The kind of devotion that built Western civilization when we had it, when our worldview had it. They will seek opportunities to desecrate. They will look for it. Because to them, it's not a desecration. It's evangelizing. They're evangelizing. They're proselytizing. Well, we just want to be left alone. They want to change the world. And they're doing it. But that's okay. We're all going to, you know what? We're having a very important conversation right now. I think all of you, though, just call a timeout. Say, Deace, I'll be back in a few minutes. There's one more person I got to shitpost on social media. I'll be right back. YOLO, you got this. We'll wait. Oh, you guys got any plans this weekend? What's the yours and family doing? What are you guys doing?
Man, I think it's going to be pretty low key.
Is it?
Yeah, I think girls want to go to the beach. Total beach redo over near my house. So yeah, that might happen.
What about over there at the yours or at the McIntyre household? What do you guys got going on? Hold on, let me check. Okay. They're not back yet. Keep going. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Probably gonna smoke pork butt.
Nice.
Again.
Nice.
And Mo. Lindy's came out. Did you get that?
I did pick up the Lindy's college football preview.
I got it like 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago.
It's been out that long.
I still haven't.
All right, hold up. They're back. They're back. Everybody's back. All right. Anyway, you guys just thought everybody's back now. We can continue on with the show, talking the important matters. Todd, your thoughts?
Aaron, my thoughts on this is that the fact that at some point during all of this monologue, you didn't intuit to put yakety sax in the background is a pox upon your house. I'd like you to work on that, please.
You're welcome. Sorry.
We had a conversation before came on air that Steve has alluded to that we won't talk about, but I dig how the energy he channeled from that was used, I think, very, very constructively. If you think this was farcical and ridiculous and nonsensical, you're right, because that's the only response to the times that we are living in, based on the degree to which our side will deal with them realistically. You can expect more of this going forward. Because if you're not serious, why the hell should we be?
I put together the montage today, and we've got a Major League Baseball story. We've got a follow-up to that guy with the suspended or not suspended license in Washtenaw County, Michigan. Just it's days like this. I wish that we were constructing something. Guys are wired to build. And when you're surrounded by levels of evil idiocy and naive idiocy, sometimes you just gotta put your hands up and say, we tried, we did our best here. Anyway, I got some really good rub at Costco. Remind me to tell you about this. I gotta tell you about this off the air, Steve.
Yeah.
Really good stuff.
I'm going to find some time this weekend. I'll sit down and read that, go through some of Lindy's college football preview. You clearly don't have anything better going on, so looking forward to it. Buy, sell, or hold is next. Back here on the Steve Deace Show with a word about our friends over at Preborn. They are the nation's leader in protecting the life of the unborn. By introducing babies to their mothers via ultrasound, the baby's chance at life doubles. Why? Because the conscience is convicted. That's why. There must be a confrontation. There is never any persuasion in this world without a confrontation. That confrontation doesn't have to be unsettling. It doesn't have to be. It can be. Sometimes it must be, but it doesn't always have to be. The confrontation isn't a tone any more than nice or truth is a tone. But a confrontation nevertheless must take place. And they understand that at Preborn. And so they confront. And then when the mom chooses reality, chooses life, then they offer the grace. And that's why they're so successful. They're emulating the exact process of persuasion you see God utilize in the scriptures. One ultrasound is just $28, even with Biden inflation. You could give yourself pretty good odds of saving a life today for just $28. Very few better expenditures of $28 you're going to find today. Everything they do, the ultrasounds, the postnatal care, the counseling, everything is free of charge, provided they have tax-deductible donations from people like us. If you'd like to make one, dial pound 250, say the keyword baby on your mobile phone. That's pound 250, keyword baby on your mobile phone. Or donate securely at preborn.com/Steve. That's preborn.com/Steve. All right, it is now your turn, and you can't do any worse than we did to open the program. So we hand it over to you guys for some buy, sell, or hold. This week, if you choose to hold for any reason, Todd, for any reason, all right, you will be sentenced. You will be sentenced to 100. I had to figure out what's 34 times 4. 136. You will have to be sentenced to 136 years in prison. Lindsey Graham will be your cellmate. And on loop, like I'm talking Clockwork Orange level on loop, you will have to watch Donald Trump crap post Bob Good over and over and over again for the rest of your days in that cell, sleeping next to Lindsey Graham.
I'll never hold again.
Never hold again. Amen. Aaron.
We'll begin with Edward Oriesk or Oriesk. I'm sorry, I'm butchering your last name, Edward, who says MH370, that was that Malaysian Airlines flight that disappeared 10 years ago. MH370 disappeared in a wormhole.
Holy crap. Has it been 10 years?
I know. Yes, it has. It was March of 2014.
Are you kidding me?
Nope.
Wow. Did you know it's been 10 years?
No. And then why is this top of mind? Is it because it's the 10-year anniversary or something? Is this?
I don't know.
Where are you going, Ed? What you doing?
Disappeared in a wormhole, huh?
I'll sell.
I'll buy. That's as good of explanation as anything else I've heard. Why not? Why are you selling?
I'm just going to...
Are you a wormhole truther by nature?
I'm just going to take the field.
Just going to take the field?
Yeah.
What do you think happened?
I have no idea.
You know?
I don't...
Virginia congressional primary, straight up. Malaysian airliner, Bob Good, who are you voting for? Straight up. What do you think? Next submission, go ahead.
Fetigator is next. The firestorm in the WNBA is a manufactured babyface Clark versus heel Reese et al. Storyline, agreed to by all parties
to
create headlines and TV ratings, and it's working brilliantly.
Hard sell. Hard sell. Again,
it's not.
I'm going to start shit posting myself. I'm going to take a time out. Why am I doing this job? Why do I come to work every day? Why am I still trying? What is the point of all of this? Why don't I just sell out and be done with it instead of trying to continue to be honest and have an ounce and scintilla of integrity? I'm back.
Anecdotally, everything I'm seeing is the opposite of this. One thing, and I go all the way back to in my early days covering some girls basketball, it's like it's the earnestness, the hard work that was kind of came out of Iowa girl in Iowa trying hard. I mean, they're never going to, there's other sports that basically translate, like track and field, for example. I happen to be like, the girls clearly aren't as fast, but when they're just racing against each other, you're not looking at these girls and like saying, wow, they're just not. Your first instinct is they're not as fast as the guys. In girls basketball, you can just tell. They're not as fast. They can't jump as high. They're just not as, frankly, coordinated, which is why they just miss more layups. Even in the pros, there's still air balls when they're shooting threes. But when there's the human part of it, which you got a lot out of tuning in across the country, people turned in to Iowa basketball because it had that it factor of like, this is pure. This is actually why we compete and play sports, man or woman. And it carried over to the NBA. But anecdotally, what I'm seeing is that people are like, this is a bleep show. And if and the basketball is actually worse than I thought it would be and expected, plus this ridiculous soap opera, and God only knows there's way too many soap operas on the men's side too. But if people are trying to find a way to fit this into their life, they're deciding after 3 weeks now that I gave it a shot. I don't think your analysis is right about this. And about the manufactured part, no, don't. This is not four-dimensional chess. Angel Reese is Legion. She's a person. Look at me, the narcissism. That's not. She has no control over this.
Oh, it was manufactured not for this purpose, though. It was manufactured in the halls of academia decades ago. And I'm not trying to
that's not what he's describing.
Yes,
yeah.
that's.
And I've seen this guy's name. Let me be kind, because I've seen
he's a good follow.
He's given some good submissions in the past.
Yeah.
Okay. But let me say this again. They are not like us. The spirit of the age and its acolytes are not like us. This is not a game. This is not an endless search for a talking point. This is, I mean, we will lie about why we are in favor of the Second Amendment on Fox News. Claire McCaskill will just go on MSNBC and just flat out say, well, they want guns to be able to shoot politicians that they don't like. That's kind of what the Second Amendment is for. Yeah, that's what it was for. You know, see what they're more honest about what we think and believe than we are, and they're way more honest about what they think and believe than we are. These are conquerors. They cannot wait to desecrate. They are aiming for it. They'll hollow everything out and leave nothing to chance on purpose. It's a mission. And it's what we used to be. I mean, what you're seeing them embody is essentially how Christendom conquered much of the learned world, particularly in the West, with almost no sustainable political power source whatsoever. They did it. Our forefathers, our ancestors in the faith, did it like this. And when I say like this, I don't mean by being narcissistic and whining. I'm not talking the personality traits. I'm talking about this level of conviction.
Yeah.
No, you don't understand. I really believe this Carpenter dude rose from the dead and told us that we need to pick up our cross and follow him and be willing to die for the less fortunate and the people that we don't even know. I believe this. I'm going to the end. I'm not recanting. But feel free. Put that thing upside down while you're at it. You know what, man? Add some more boiling oil to that thing. Tell you what, when you have the horses, have the horses draw and quarter me slower so I feel it. I mean it. I mean this. I'm going nowhere. I see the lions coming out of the cage in the arena. I'm going nowhere. I'm here. I can do this all day. Well, at least for the next 6 or 7 minutes, because the lions probably gonna win. Okay? We don't understand this because we don't have any of this level of conviction at all. None of it. Not. They've got it all over there. And so we're analyzing them the way we analyze our own situations. So you cannot look at them the way you look at Fox and say, all right, Fox is just BSing me because they want this guy to win the primary. And so they're just making, you see what I'm saying? They're not like us. Please. I don't know how many more of our customs, how many more of our custodians, weren't we all just screaming we crossed a Rubicon when they put the guy who's the face of our side on prison and put him on trial with a conviction of 34 felony counts? Wasn't that yesterday? How many more? How many more customs? How many more custodians? How much more culture? How much more are they just going to conquer and or co-opt and then sip the spoils of war in our faces and laugh at us before we collectively come to the conclusion, I wonder, I think these people are serious. They will drive this woman out of their league. They're getting a temporary ratings boost now. They don't care. They're not doing this for any of those reasons. They're this delusional. They're this narcissistic.
But so are we.
And so are we. But they channel theirs in commitment to a cause. We channel ours to avoid committing to a cause. I can just vote my way out of this. I can just watch my Fox News way out of this. I can just follow my favorite podcast and get all ornery for an hour or two a day and go right back to mowing the lawn, and things will organically just occur.
The bread and the circuses are delicious, Steve.
Yeah, they're not like us. They do not put our politicians on trial just to say, go have a rally. Go have a rally and proclaim yourself a martyr right after we sentence you to prison. They don't do it like that. We do. We say, lock her up. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Then when, like, well, maybe it's unfair. We do that. They don't. They don't do that. They don't. They did not conquer all of our cultural institutions. They did not. They did not spend billions of dollars buying Star Wars. And then there's going to be a moment where they've so broken the franchise, they're out of so much money that they're going to be like, guess we need a course correction. Nope. No.
Well, go plan that Disney vacation.
They will
go do that.
They will, dude. They will have Star Wars sponsoring Pride Month next summer, and there'll be a Star Wars logo on every homo oral sex pamphlet in your public schools before they dare admit that they went too far, because that's why they bought it. They didn't buy it for billions to make billions. They bought it to rule you. When will we understand? McFly, is this on? These are conquerors. We think it's a reality show. We think people don't really mean it. They really mean it. And I don't even know what more they have to do to prove this point. I don't.
I'm confident we're going to take it, though.
I'm confident we are going to take it, too. Yes. Yeah, the same people who said your kids should be taken away from you if you don't put a poisonous genetic serum in yourself or them. It's not a talking point. It's not. Within the ESPN staff, there's a civil war happening over this. These are I give up. What's the next one? I just...
Dustin D'Entremont says post-mill eschatology is the closest to the truth.
I have no idea. Also, I'll be fair. Someone emailed me last week and said, gun to your head, if you had to choose one, which would it be? I say, if you put a gun to my head, I'll choose post-mill, simply because it's the one I would most like to be true. Because I like winning. I'm going to tell you right now, I'll tell you guys what I said to the team here before the show started, relaying the story that I promised I would not say publicly. If it weren't for the Holy Spirit, I'd have never hung around this side for this long. Never in a million years. I can't stand losing. I mean, I hate it, like with a passion. Like idolatry. I have an idolatrous hatred of losing on any front. So if it weren't for the Holy Spirit sealing that covenant, I'd have been like, peace out, man. I'm going where they win. I can't stand losing. So if you force me on which one I would choose, and I know what you're all going to say, well, we win no matter what. I understand that. You can save your emails. I get that.
Oh, no.
Okay.
They are coming.
Yeah. But if you made me choose which one I'd prefer to be true, it'd be post-mill, because I like the idea of a church triumphant. But I don't know which one is the closest to the truth. And if I did, I'd take that position. We're not exploring these different positions because, I feel like I just need to be fair to everybody. Is that the kind of person I am in general? Hey guys, let's pander.
Well, that's different from being fair.
Yeah,
so definitely not the.
How many times have we ever had that conversation privately?
No, not the pander. Never.
I am genuinely curious, and I know there's a wide variety of opinion in our own show, and so
Are we sure? Are we sure? I don't think there is.
I don't know.
You tried.
I did.
We did.
I'll keep on trying.
Are we going to do with our Roman study like we did with Atlas? Are we just going to
actually have to tap out?
Romans 3, verse 2. I think we're done here.
For all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. Romans 3:23
is off the top
it's
of my
actually
head.
3:23 is for all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. I thought that's where you were going.
I wasn't going anywhere. I picked numbers out of my head, and then I realized I may have just spoken into existence. A holy war!
Man, this has been a dark hour so far. Let's get this one in real quick before we get to break, and then we'll react on the other side. This is from Tyler Small. There won't be a dramatic collapse like in the movies. It'll be more insidious. Every day things will get a little bit more expensive. Homes will shrink and work hours will increase while pay decreases. You'll see family and friends less, lower your standards, and lose job security. People will marry and have less. Should I stop now?
I buy the whole thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's John Daniel Davidson's thing from The Federalist. I told you that just blew my mind more than anything that anyone has said on this show all year long. That's amen. I'll buy. We don't have to revisit it. Buy every word.
Correct.
Yeah. Without revival, buy every word. More in a moment. All right, back here on the Steve Deace Show, powered by BlazeTV. I'm Steve Deace alongside Todd Erzin and Aaron McIntyre back here with Hour 2. Let us know what you think about what we think via the stevedeace.com inbox. You can email us, steve@stevedeace.com. That's DEACE. Like us on Facebook, we and Gab. Follow me at Steve Deace Show on Twitter. Get our Instagram and TikTok. You can also leave us a 5-star review if you like the show, although this may not be the best day to be asking for one of those. But I guess if you're leaving us a 5-star review today, it's real. Right? Because we are not making it easy for you to give us 5 stars today. Not that we really ever do, but today's a little more difficult than the rest. So thank you for all the 5-star reviews you've given us the other days. You can also hit subscribe, or in the case of iTunes, follow. And that way, every time we do a new show, it will show up in your feed every single time. Also, if you are concerned about what is happening at America's universities, which are less concerned with critical thinking these days, way less concerned, in fact, than they are with indoctrination. And this is why now so many young people, that table we showed you of the difference of beliefs between boomers and Gen Zers, which basically is the decline and fall of American civilization in one trusty handy chart. Well, one college wants to do something about that, and that is Hillsdale College. As stated in its founding document back in 1844, Hillsdale's original mission remains intact, and that is to offer the kind of serious liberal arts education needed to preserve the blessings of civil and religious liberty across the land. And this mission continues to guide Hillsdale College today. You can learn more at daceforhillsdale.com, FOR dace4hillsdale.com. There you go to find a short video if you go there. It's just over a minute long, and it shows you how Hillsdale's work, not only on its Michigan and Washington, D.C. campuses, but across the nation, is effective in defending American liberty. So take some time to watch this video today at dace4hillsdale.com. Again, that's dace4hillsdale.com. All right, let's get back to some buy, sell, or hold. Aaron, you may continue.
Let's go back real quick. So we were talking about whether Malaysia Airline Flight 370 disappeared in a wormhole. We have video of that now. Would you like to see this? This is allegedly satellite ultraviolet camera footage. Alleged. It's not real, I don't think, of MH370. I haven't done any research on this. Allegedly disappearing into a wormhole. You buying that? Todd, you seem convinced.
This wormhole is a big tease like SMOD. I mean, why stop it there? Keep going.
Why didn't it stop? Or why did it stop?
That looks like, can you put that back? That looks like when I played River Raid on Activision on Atari back in the day.
What a great game.
And it looks like my River Raid plane is flying into a tie-dye. So I'm not sure that's the most reliable video out there. That's my immediate read.
Yeah, I don't think it's reliable.
Still more interesting than this whole presidential election.
See, that's why I brought it up.
So.
That's why I brought it up. Thank you. Thank you very much. Next, we go to Dan Twellmeyer, who says these two books from Robert F. Kennedy Jr. are the real reason he's not going to be on the debate stage. That's the Wuhan cover-up and the real Anthony Fauci.
Oh, I've said this from the beginning. I thought that's why I didn't think there'd be any debates. Because he was polling, I said there were two reasons I didn't think there'd be any debates, and he was one of those two reasons. His polling was so high, he was at Ross Perot levels that they'd have to include him, and neither side wants him on that stage. They each have different reasons why they don't want him there, but neither side wants him there. So I agreed with that from the beginning. He's got other problems now in terms of ballot access. And the Libertarian Party is not going to provide him an easy outlet to get there. It's early June. I mean, folks, we're going to start early voting everywhere in the country in September. So sooner or later, I think the latest you have to qualify anywhere, I want to say, is mid-August, because I think we looked at these dates a few months ago, didn't we? And because it takes time to print the ballots and everything else. So he's running out of time to get a critical mass of states. And so because of that, they can get away with excluding him. If they have this debate on June 27th, we'll see if that happens. I'm still not entirely convinced that debate's going to occur.
I'm selling that those reasons, books about COVID, are the reasons why he's not on there. We just saw with the Republicans on Monday cross-examining Fauci. They're not... I know as listeners to this show that it might be easy. A lot of people have come a long way, but not nearly enough on the issue of COVID. Come on, even most Republicans, the magical power of vaccines, they're bought. They're not afraid of him coming up on stage and really pulling back the curtain on anything. They aren't.
All right, you guys ready to fire up the Lee Greenwood?
Actually, before you do, I want to share a quick note from Mark, just really quick, because it's in response to, my lament.
Which one? There were lots.
This is one of the best analogies of our situation. Mark basically says, we are the people on the rooftop in Independence Day. Dancing, having a party.
In the beginning, yeah.
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 Our deliverance is nigh. Yeah. Meanwhile,
really, really comfortable, Steve.
Yeah, and the alien ships are over the top, and we think we're getting beamed up, right? Now, then one of the great scene blocks in modern movie history takes place.
Yeah.
Where you see what they're really on top of the buildings for.
Yeah.
I mean, you remember that Super Bowl? It was the Cowboys-Steelers Super Bowl when they debuted the first trailer for Independence Day and they blew up the White House.
Yeah.
Do you remember people's reactions to that at the time? Can you imagine if we had social media back then, that thing would have done like 100 million views? Okay. But Mark, that is a phenomenal analogy.
Right.
A phenomenal analogy. Yes.
All right. Moving on. You ready?
Yep.
All right. Tasty and Memes for Unvaccinated Fiends wants to fire up the Lee Greenwood. And I'm proud to be intolerant because that's how my God made me. And I won't forget what Romans 1 says about sexuality. And I'll gladly stand up here in June and proclaim the truth today because there ain't no doubt about where I stand. Thank God that I'm not gay.
That reminds me, Steve. You posted it, and I saw it elsewhere last week. That there was that video going around of that guy dressed in drag out in the woods, spoofing what's the guy who got famous by writing the song? And he totally does the spoof does the most horrific trans surgery lyrics.
Yeah.
You reposted it. Who's the actual guy
he had his 15 minutes of fame last summer.
He's still touring.
You're talking about the guy doing the bluegrass,
rich men
from north of Richmond. Yeah, that
the
guy.
Redo of it.
Whatever happened to that dude? By the
he's
way,
still around. He's on
Where
tour.
Where did he go?
He's on tour.
Is he? Okay,
he's
good for
actually
him.
not so like people offered him a lot of money. He turned down a lot of money. But then the guy who looks like him in a dress though, and he redoes the lyrics about trans surgery.
That video is great. Yep.
So perfectly horrible. I did not make it all the way through because it is grotesque.
Yes.
But it's nails it.
It's grotesque, but in the way that it needs to be for this era.
Yeah.
Like the language that the Lord uses to describe the spiritual idolatry of his people in Ezekiel, the language is grotesque. I mean, he's talking about ejaculate. He's talking about lewd sexual terms. It's grotesque language, but it's also very applicable and necessary given we're talking about a people who allowed their idolatry to put them into 70 years of captivity. So the point needs to be made here about why you're going through this. You know what I'm saying? So yes, this video is not for kids, and it is grotesque. Okay, the language that is used. It's also, I think, 100% appropriate. Yeah. Meaning that the language is lewd and grotesque, but I would not say necessarily that it's profane. That it's not being utilized in order to be lurid or sensual. It's actually being used to disgust you. Yeah. Okay, to make you revolt and think, oh, I don't want any part of that. That's the same reason God uses that kind of language in Jeremiah and Ezekiel. The exact same reason. Yeah. All right. It's not for you to be titillated by it, but to be revolted by it. Yes.
Next, we are going to go to this from Pujols fan. Best Major League Baseball players since the beginning of 2000. Number 10, Mariano Rivera.
Just do the whole list.
Number 9, Derek Jeter. Number 8, Justin Verlander. Number 7, Max Scherzer. Number 6, Adrian Beltre. 5, Clayton Kershaw. 4, Mike Trout. 3, Ichiro Suzuki. 2, Miguel Cabrera. And number 1, Albert Pujols.
So I know if my buddy, my former broadcast partner, Kurt Schilling, were here, he would put Mike Trout number 1. But I don't necessarily have a problem with that list. I'm sure there's other names we could come up with if we tried.
Yeah, I'm fine.
If anything, I think Mariano Rivera is too low, but I can also see the argument that he was largely a situational player. But he was Mariano Rivera, pound for pound, is among the most dominant players of my lifetime. But I'm okay with that list. Yeah, I mean, and Miguel Cabrera, of course, was a phenomenal hitter. If you look at many of the metrics and stats, he's going to be among the top 2 or 3, 4 right-handed hitters in MLB history. But he also was a minus in the field, kind of not his thing, even when he was healthy. So, but I'm okay with that list. I think those are probably the right 10 names, and if they're not, at least 8 of them are at least the right 10 names. So I'm okay with it. You?
Yeah, me too.
All right, before we get on with the rest of Buy, Sell, or Hold, don't forget about our friends over at ExpressVPN. So how did you choose which internet service provider to use? The sad thing is most of us have very little choice where that is concerned. And ISPs operate like monopolies in the regions they serve, and then they use this monopoly power to take advantage of the customers, data caps, streaming throttles, the list goes on. But worst of all, many ISPs log your internet activity and sell that data to other big tech companies or advertisers. To prevent ISPs from seeing your internet activity, do what I do and protect your devices with ExpressVPN. It's a simple app for your computer or smartphone that encrypts all your network data and tunnels it through a secure VPN server so that your ISP cannot see any of your activity. And it's so easy to install. It literally is just a couple of clicks and you're good to go. And it does all of this without slowing your connection. That's why it's rated the #1 VPN service at CNET. So stop handing over your personal data and ISPs to other data and information to the big tech giants who mine your activity and hate you, by the way. Protect yourself with a VPN that you can trust to keep you private online. Visit expressvpn.com/Steve. That's ExpressVPN, as V as in victory, VPN. expressvpn.com/Steve. You'll get 3 extra months for free. That's expressvpn.com/Steve. Aaron.
All right. Got to advance through the slides again here. More thoughts on MH370? Because we haven't... I'm just kidding. Next, Sean Griffiths says the horrors and atrocities of the 21st century will make the horrors and atrocities of the 20th century seem like just a warm-up. Everybody's Obsidian Black today. Vanta Black.
Vanta Black. Vanta Black. Here, let me tell you why I'm wrestling with this. Because I don't know that we will see the singular atrocities of like
the high body counts.
Yeah, exactly. You know, like some of the things we saw in World War I and World War II when you're dealing with chemical warfare or war on that massive a scale. But if you start doing the math on the amount of kids we're going to gender mutilate, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Do we eventually get there? Okay. I'm going to go ahead and buy on this for this reason, actually. I'm not going to do the math. I'm going to do philosophy. And I'm going to say that essentially the philosophies that spearheaded the atrocities of the 20th century are winning the 21st century. So that's probably the only way it could go, is what Sean says.
Yeah.
And the philosophy of the philosophies of the 20th century that stood up to those things and pushed back and defeated them are largely abrogated, defeated. So I will sadly buy. Barring revival, I'll buy.
And look at it through the eyes of God. There's a video going around today of somebody living in Oregon a dad who reported to the police, called the police about his 2-year-old son in his own yard. Some naked man came up and exposed himself. And the cop shows up and it's on video. And the cop says, unless the person is doing it for sexual gratification. Yeah, I know, Aaron. It's not against the law. Yeah, so it's not... Sean, we may be closer to that truth already happening in many respects than Sean even lets on. I mean, that's just a level of rot, perversity, decadence, decay. Really, I mean, we keep telling ourselves because of our comfort. It's bad, but it's not that bad yet. You sure?
By the way, I'm getting back to the Malaysian airliner thing again. I'm getting several emails from people telling me that Pat Gray, our colleague here, does the morning show before Glenn, apparently did a recent show looking at the various theories around this. So if you're interested in it, I'd go and listen to that. So
next up, we go to Uncommon Sense, who says the normies are the only thing holding this country together at this point by just living their lives, albeit they're only delaying disaster, giving more opportunity for revival. Normies have value if you look for it.
I'll let you answer this first.
So, I don't think that's giving them way too much. The country isn't being held together. I mean, that's like a logical fallacy you're introducing. Their total disregard, neglect is actually the glue keeping this thing together. No, it's why we're here. Normal people not being citizens. Being a normie is I guess we use it in two ways. electorally speaking, defining the map, the people you have to get kind of thing, in which case it's maybe value neutral. But when I use that, it's a pejorative. Outside of that, you just, you honestly think like you have some kind of ridiculous birthright to do absolutely nothing that matters.
I'm going to sell, but this should be true. Okay, this should be true. If we were mired in a culture war, but a functioning society nevertheless, this would be true. Meaning that the stakes that the two sides of the culture war are arguing over are existential in nature, but the normies would act as a cartilage in your knee to stop the knee from blowing out. Okay, meaning that yes, we need to figure these things out. Okay, and they have to be hashed out, but we don't need to blow the whole thing up while we're blow each other up, figuring it out at the same time. I think that's what you're alluding to. Okay, if we were, and see, this is why I thought there was not going to just be a red wave, but a red wedding in 2022, because I thought like this.
Mm-hmm. You thought the scene, that's a great scene, and we both love it, in The Darkest Hour, when Churchill at the end goes to the subway to talk to the normies, and they're just getting on with their life. But
seamstresses and factory workers and businessmen, yes.
And what would you do if the war came? We'd fight them with our broom handles.
Correct.
And then you found out.
And now there's no mean tweets. He's not even on Twitter.
No.
Not even a candidate. Nowhere on the ballot. Hasn't been seen in like 2 years, basically. You have to look for Donald Trump to find him. So there's no more excuses. Just a straight up and down, is this the right direction for the country? And I thought and the issue polling was all in our favor.
I thought that was going to be the most important election ever. I said it many, many times. And,
yes, you did.
And I was actually right. But
so here's the thing. If the normies are going to be the people that are not going to be radicalized, but could still be mobilized.
Because they're citizens.
Okay, then I would agree with you. But if they now no longer can be mobilized, like they can't be bothered to use the peaceful political process of saying, hey man, hey jerk, don't mask my kid ever again. You know what I'm saying? I'm not asking, hey, what are your views on the Apostles' Creed and the specific reference to the Catholic Church, the big C or capitals? We're not even doing that. We're not even doing that. I'm just, you know what? No, I'm not gonna take an untested vaccine. In fact, I still think Todd's a kook. I don't want anything to do with people like that, but I'm not taking any more untested things before I have to work. We're not doing that anymore. Get those people out of office. That was nuts. You see what I'm saying? Now, that's a healthy normie, frustrating still at times, but behaving as some form of a buffer to avoid us going, Charlton Heston at the end of Planet of the Apes. You blew it up, you morons, you idiot, you blew it up, right? Okay. Mm-hmm. But I don't see that out of the normies, actually. I don't. And so in many respects, I see them as an obstacle now. And they're going to bring us to the point that we're going to blow it up. Because they should be the cartilage in the knee. They should be the ones that stop us from, succumbing to the worst, the worst aspects of our nature in this kind of a conflict. And everybody take a deep breath. We're all still Americans here. You know what I'm saying? They should be that. But normie no longer now doesn't mean not radicalized. It means just non-caring, non-interested.
Which is why I have way more resentment for the normies than I do for Angel Reese. Way more.
I'm approaching that. Because that's what makes the likes of if the normies were what's in here, Angel Reese would pay a steep price for this. Yes. If the normies were what's in that offering, the WNBA, the commissioner would have come out and been like a season-long suspension and literally just said, we're having the best ratings and they're making the most money and there's the most attention on this sport there's ever been. You morons, shut the bleep up. That's what would have happened.
Across the board. And Star Wars, that would look different. College football, that would look different.
I agree with all these things,
All of the pro football teams, including the Packers, came out as gay yesterday. Would look different. The normies of Green Bay.
The normies have just largely checked out. and cannot be bothered. It's no longer they cannot be radicalized. Now they just can't be bothered. And this is why I am afraid of the future. Because on one end, we don't have the kind of normie population described in this tweet anymore. Or at least they didn't show up in 2022. Man, I want to sit here. When is it? November 5th is the election this year, I think it is. Is that the right date, guys?
That sounds right.
I want to sit here on November 6th, the next day, just speaking for me. Can you guys all do what you want to do? Todd and Aaron, do what you want to do? I'm just speaking for me. I want to sit here on November 6th, and I'd love nothing more than to come in that morning and just find out the normies were like, guys, seriously, we can't have a dementia patient be president of the United States, guys. You know, that's a normie decision. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
That's a normie decision. Like, I'm not sure if I like the other guy, if I agree with him on everything, but he can only be in office for one term anyway. How much damage can he do? Things were actually pretty good until the pandemic when he was president before. Mm-hmm. We'll put up with it. We just can't have a guy that literally doesn't know where his bowl of oatmeal is run the country. That's it. And it's just nothing about it. It's just nothing. They made no other decision other than that. I'm like, okay. Maybe 2022 was just a hangover from COVID and we hadn't fully come out of it yet. You see what I'm saying? And maybe I overreacted, and because I am completely broken after the 2022 election. And somebody else is going to have to put me back together again. I am not trusting in any more norms until they present themselves that they still exist. Because what I'm seeing is we're just going right through them. Like driving over the speed bumps, running over the speed zone signs. Yeah, that's what I'm seeing. I'd love nothing more if people were just like in the top two, Trump pulls it out and the top two issues in the election, according to exit polls, were the economy, which is always number one, and Biden's age. That'd be like the most normie result. Like in any other era, that would be the normie result if this tweet was correct, right?
Yes.
And I would love it. You know why? I've got a 3-month-old granddaughter. I've got 2 adult children. I got one going into their senior year. I want the half of my brain that's really optimistic about the future here to win out. I want that one to win out. I want it to win. Okay? So I would love that result. Love it. But I'm going to need to see it. Okay? Because what I see are the normies basically saying, do what thou wilt. That's what I'm seeing.
Next, we go to Daniel Garrett. We're less than 3 years away from a college athlete, quote unquote, holding out during training camp for more NIL money in the same way you see that happens in the NFL sometimes.
3 years? Why that long?
You know what? I don't want to wait that long for that because I want to see. I just want to do that show tomorrow and just let Todd just have I'm going to sit here, get caught up on my inbox. Todd, you got the show today. It's on you. I'll do the live reads.
Let me ask you this way, though. What does it take? Totally serious question. What is it going to take for the absurdity in college football to reach where you can appreciate at the level you can see it in Star Wars now? Because come on, the sharks are being jumped in college.
Sharks are being jumped,
and
see, now we're going to open up a can of worms at 25 after, all right, that we would have to debate for 3 hours. Where you and I differ on this is I don't think it's immoral to pay people for their labor. That's where you and I, in any context, that's where you and I differ on this. And it's because they've denied this. I think it's because they've denied this reality for so long that they are now in the mess they're in. You think they're in the mess they're in because they're going to accept this. That's really the difference, as far as I can tell, from my perspective and you and I's opinions on this. Is I don't think it's immoral. To me, the scholarship was a form of compensation. And for many years, that was given the cost of attendance, and that was a perfectly fair remuneration. Now that the schools are making hundreds of millions of dollars from TV networks, I don't think it's fair remuneration. And I think we're in this position because they won't acknowledge the market reality. You think acknowledging the market reality is what has put them in this situation. And you might be right.
I don't even accept terms like market reality.
Exactly.
I think those are...
Yeah. And that's the difference in you and I's approaches to this. Is that fair?
Well,
is that, Aaron, as the third person here, is that a fair articulation?
Normally on we show everything, we starts with a moral reality and we go from there. And we just decide that because it's the favorite thing in the world that somehow doesn't apply here. I mean, it's not, it's just...
Yeah, I don't think it's immoral.
I don't think Todd disagrees with that. I just don't think he thinks that's what's happening here.
Okay.
I don't think he thinks that's the main thing that's happening here. Next, we go to William Clock, who says, Steve becomes Catholic before Todd becomes Protestant.
That's where we are doing.
Are we ending on this? Really? We're really going to end on this? And that's my fault. I talked for so long that we're going to end on this, aren't we?
This is why we won't get through Romans 1. I talked to them. I genuinely, earnestly think it's gone well so far.
I agree, it's gone well. Yeah.
But then I think people start talking. I'm
gonna sell. But what I think is more likely to happen, the more I think about our Romans study, is like I've gotten emails from people on both sides. Todd's being nice to you guys because you're friends. You guys are being nice to Todd because you're friends. You actually have it backwards. It's because we're friends that we'd be more inclined to actually be more vicious to one another and going after our disagreements because we wouldn't take it personally. But we're not sure, frankly, the audience could handle it. You see what I'm saying? That if we really went after each other as dudes who love one another and therefore don't feel like, somebody's trying to get over on me but have a sincere disagreement, we are more concerned that you and the audience could not handle it. Okay? I think moving forward, it's actually going to be doctrinal issues within Christianity itself and not the Catholic Protestant stuff that people are going to lose their minds over. When we get to the chapters where Paul talks about Israel, when we get to the chapters where Paul talks about election, I think those are things that are probably going to end up being way more divisive or divisive, however you want to pronounce it, than the other aspects will be. Because you know why? Because there's going to be people that are both Protestant and Catholic that are going to disagree with some of those statements together and agree together.
All I know is there's generally not a bone in my body that has attempted, whether with the two guys in this room or with anybody in this audience, to go top row Catholic and make it clear that that's my modus operandi. I'm here to terraform the earth for Catholicism on this. And I don't think that's what they're trying to do on their side. But that's what you guys seem to want, at least the loudest of you out there.
Yeah, see, I'm actually sola scriptura. I just want to open up the Bible, study it, and submit to what it says. That's my, Steve, what's your motivation? That's it. That's my motivation. That's what I think sola scriptura means. Open up the Bible, open up the Word of God, see what it says, submit to it. Because it's the Word of God, and it's the only Word of God. That's what I think it means. That's all I'm out to do. I have no other agenda beyond that. And whatever uniform you're wearing at the time, if you agree with what it says, then I agree with you. And whatever uniform you're wearing, if you don't agree with what it says, I don't agree with you. That's it. Just saw a tweet in my feed. If Aaron reads my buy, seller, hold submission, please don't yell at me too.
Yeah, that was Bruce Jenner's uterus.
What's? Yeah. So let me say, is it
Fetigator.
Thank you. I'm sorry, dude. I mean, I've seen you post submissions before, and they've all been great.
Yes.
So forgive me. It's not. I know. But in some respects, the fact that someone who understands what time it is even like you do, is even capable of thinking this is just all a show, indicates what a trap this is for our side to believe this. Because you know what? Let me be empathetic for just a second, especially before we bring Daniel Horowitz on. We're the place where empathy goes to die. All right. I know we look at some of the stuff that they're doing and it's so nuts, and you're just thinking like, why would you blow up your entire league when you're more popular than you've ever been? You see what I'm saying? Who would do this?
Yes.
Who would do this? Like, why would you go do interviews and tell people with families, hey, don't watch our stuff? Why would you? I mean, it's got to be. You see what I'm saying? It's a troll. I understand why we're tempted to constantly revert back to that, because we're like, this is so dumb. Who does this? Well, I don't know. We used to these exact same kind of people used to throw their kids into volcanoes. Okay, pagans do lots of dumb. Pagan and dumb are basically synonyms, okay? Lots of paganism is dumb. Hey, we chopped down a tree, we carved a figurine into it, And I'm here to tell you that this is God. Really? Because I watched a dog piss on that yesterday, and you see what I'm saying? So I know we're tempted to say it can't be this dumb. Oh yes, it can. And if there is one thing I know we are all assured of, it is this. It is going to get even dumber. It's going to get even dumber. On that we're all agreed?
Amen, amen, I say to you.
Yeah, verily, verily, I say unto you. We have just begun to dumb. So, Fedigator, I'm feeling you. My bad. Okay? I'm sorry. Hey, for a decade now, Patriot Mobile has been America's only Christian conservative wireless provider. And when I say only, I mean only. All right. And it's why they have been great supporters of networks like The Blaze, great supporters of events like Rise Up Con that I was just at in Pigeon Forge over the weekend. Kevin Sorbo trying to do more to raise the bar for faith-based filmmakers. One of the primary sponsors of that event, Patriot Mobile. In fact, I was doing some of the speaking I was doing was in, the Patriot Mobile Center. So that's just one example of how they really mean it when they say they are for the same values and causes that we are. Make the switch today, though. And I always tell you guys this, it's not just because they share your values, but it's a great product. Their customer service team has been absolutely incredible. Anything we've needed. They'll customize the switch for you. Whatever you want to do, you want to keep your phone, you want to upgrade your phone, you want to switch your number, you want to keep your number. They'll make it as seamless as possible for you. If you're a veteran or first responder, if you want to make the switch, let them know. And they'll say thank you for your service with unique incentives just for you. And for all of us, use my name, Steve, to get a free activation when you go to patriotmobile.com/Steve. Use the offer code Steve for the free activation at patriotmobile.com/Steve. Again, head over to patriotmobile.com/Steve. And with that, let's bring in the prophet of woe and lamentation, our good friend Daniel Horowitz. So, Daniel, you've been kind of the watchman on the wall here on the network, following the primary results around the country. You noted for us last week that the trend line is we're being much more successful in taking the trash out in state legislative primaries than we are federally. I saw some of what you were posting this morning, looking at last night's primary results in a few places, including my home state. That trend line continued. And one thing you shared with me this morning, though, about one state in particular, South Dakota, and what's gone on there, this could be a learning lesson for us moving forward.
Yes.
So let's discuss that.
So a lot of us have been wondering for years, and I have butterflies in my stomach every Tuesday night. Yeah, this has been going on for 15 years. Maybe the time will come when you wake up and they're just like gone. All the Mitch McConnells and the Kevin McCarthys are gone, and the Fox News crowd finally realizes the uniparty, we have all these people that claim to know what time it is and everything. So finally, we're going to act on that acknowledgement. And it never happens. I mean, the cavalry never comes. And like I said, in the federal races, not a single guy goes down. In, legislatures, it's measuring by inches and maybe feet in a couple places. But in South Dakota, it finally happened. 13 rhinos went down, and there was a sweep of a bunch of open races to the point where Republicans, so the Republicans have a 32-3 or 32-3 majority in the Senate in South Dakota, but there are only a handful of conservatives. The rest are Democrats, and all but name only. Diab knows. And overnight, we probably will now have a majority of the caucuses in both chambers to get rid of leadership. The entire whip team in the House was erased, including a lot of people who weren't expecting themselves to go down. And then the top leaders that are left, the Senate Pro Tem, Speaker, Majority Leader, they will likely not win re-election. But Steve, it's better than that. This is roughly on par, if not better, than what happened in Texas. But in Texas, you actually had an anomaly with Trump weighing in for once on the right side. You had a figure as transcendent as Ken Paxton weighing in. You had the impeachment, which everyone understands. You had none of that. You had nothing state. You didn't even have a statewide race. It was literally the legislature was the Super Bowl. So this was straight up grassroots. And Steve, what it was, what it was. You're just south of it. It's the pipeline. It's the green energy, Green New Deal. land grab. It was the landowners' rebellion, and that's pretty much 90% of what happened last night. Summit Carbon and these guys put in about $2 million for their guys, but we have a Freedom Caucus. We had low-dollar PACs, but they were PACs that got organized. It's not going to happen with nothing, so we had a movement, and it worked. And Steve, what I've learned from South Dakota versus everything else, is that it's got to get really, really personal. Abstract principle is just not going to cut it. And I think that's what we've learned. People have to really feel their livelihood, their land that was in the family for 5 generations in some places in South Dakota. They have to really feel that is on the line. And I think that's the path going forward. The more we build these Freedom Caucuses and buttress them, we strengthened the Freedom Caucus in Montana, had a pretty good result there as well. The more you pick a fight with the Uniparty and knock them off their carefully orchestrated game and duplicitous messaging and force issues and votes that they don't want, the more we have the opportunity to make it personal.
As you were talking, you reminded me of a conversation I had several years ago with really one of the founding fathers of the modern conservative movement, Richard Viguerie.
Yep.
And he was telling, because we were discussing in the height, him and I were having a private conversation, and we were discussing at the height of the Tea Party movement why we were so unsuccessful in taking out so many of these rhinos in these primaries, okay? And looking at, why was Dave Bratt the one race that almost none of us thought we had any chance of winning, okay? And that's the one that actually ended up toppling a significant Republican. He took out the Republican majority leader, if I recall, right, Eric Cantor. Yep. And so what happened there that didn't happen in the Bevin McConnell race and several of these other races? And I'd completely forgotten about this conversation until just as you were talking, you jarred my memory. Richard took me back to the 1976 Republican primary in North Carolina. And he said, if Ronald Reagan does not win that primary, he's never president of the United States. He had lost the opening 5 primaries in a row to Ford. And the pressure on him to get out of the race was overwhelming. He was dividing the Republican Party, et cetera, et cetera. And so this was essentially his last stand. And Richard said already focused on the fact that Jesse Helms decided to support Reagan instead of Carter as the deciding point. But he said under the radar, and I don't remember what he said the issue was, but there was one populist issue that North Carolinians cared greatly about. And I just can't remember what he said it was, okay? And Reagan made his entire primary campaign in that state about that issue, okay? And ended up stunning Ford that night, and then stayed in and fought this all the way to the convention. And he said, hey, listen, if he doesn't win that primary, he drops out and he has no future presidential prospects. So that is some history to buttress what you're talking about, that we're dealing with low turnout events most of the time. And so this kind of abstract, well, that guy, Lindsey Graham's a rhino. Okay.
Yep.
What does that mean? You know what I'm saying? Mitch McConnell sold us out. Okay. Well, what does that mean? You have to make it personal to me. On one hand, most people think most Republicans they vote for will suck anyway, so what's the difference? So you're fighting the cynicism amongst our own people, number one. And let's not act as if that cynicism is not well-founded all too often, okay? Number two, there's the short attention span. Number three, you're trying to convince people who have who have voted for the same guy over and over again to suddenly not do so. That's a hard sell. So is there a singular issue that is personal to the people at that moment you can point to and say, hey, man, maybe that guy was good before, but on this one that you really care about, they're on the wrong side here and they got to go. And so now I've got some skin in the game now, because keeping that person there changes, my own personal outlook on life in particular. And that's what we're going to have to look for now, apparently more often moving forward.
No, I mean, exactly. You can't just take an automatic weapon and fire an Uzi. Did border inflation, invasion. It's got to be particularized and rallying around one particular issue. But I would argue that is for the state legislature where incumbency doesn't loom as large. And this goes in both directions, where we have good incumbents, bad incumbents, a lot of redistricting, and sometimes they're not even in the same district. But when it comes to higher offices, Steve, I'm just going to tell you, there is no secret sauce. It will never happen.
Just overwhelmed. There's too much money, too much name ID. It's impossible.
It will never happen. And this is what we learned. You saw that in Iowa, that there is not a single incumbent who will go down. And this is without, Trump even endorsing the bad guys. Even if you take that out of there, the problem is if you are willing to lie through your teeth. See, the other thing about Dave Brad is it was kind of a sneak attack. He was there, and we were making noise about it. Laura Ingraham was making noise about it, but he didn't see it as a full-bore threat. Now they see it coming. You can't sneak attack. And so what they do is they're on lockdown. I mean, you have this guy Timmons in South Carolina that Adam Morgan is challenging. You have Michelle Fischbach close to you in western part of Minnesota. They're on lockdown. I mean, let me just tell you, typically on the big stuff, they'll vote the right way. But then these small amendments where it's only like the Chip Roys and Thomas Massey's. So you had yesterday, it was hilarious, guys that voted against NATO funding in the VA MILCON, military construction appropriation bill. Now, I mean, NATO is just a fixture with the GOP. The base is obviously souring on it. So it was about 45 guys, the Freedom Caucus guys, basically the guys you would expect voted no. And then you would see Timmons and Fischbach. It was just, these guys are so good. When they have a challenger who even has like $80,000 against them, they're full locked in. And by the way, Johnson gets all the Democrat votes anyway. So you could afford to give out as many hall passes as you want. The whole thing's a game. Mm-hmm. And then they just lie through their teeth with the money they got from the industries precisely because they know they're helping the other side. You can't sort this out in primaries. We will never, ever change things. Just last night, at the same time we had a good night in legislatures, I'll just tell you in Montana, we went backwards. Matt Rosendale's seat went to a McCarthy guy and a Trump-endorsed McCarthy guy at that. But we're not even winning open seats. I mean, we will have a worse roster of House Republicans next year than this year.
Here's the thing. I don't even think it matters.
No.
Because it's so bad now. We're at the point, we've so past the point of diminishing returns. Like, okay, we're at an F minus, so I guess we're at an F minus minus. You see what I'm saying? I mean, if the trade-off is that we're making some significant gains, whatever significant, define what that is, but we're making some significant gains in state legislatures, as opposed to we upgraded from an F to a D minus, I'll take the state legislatures at this stage every single time, if that's my trick.
Yeah. And let's not forget, Democrats have about an 85-15 majority in the United States Senate.
Exactly.
So I mean, and you need 60 votes. And, so what are you going to do? And that's why I tell any friend who considers running statewide, I say, if you run for, Senate or an at-large House seat, I'll kill you. Because for the same money, you could run for governor. And you better not do that. It's a waste of time. Adam Morgan's the chairman of the South Carolina Freedom Caucus. He has a good replacement. So I think that a point needs to be made that he needs to be able to defeat a rhino endorsed by Trump. We need to start breaking that. But in general, if you have a gem in your state, there's no purpose in sending him up to that landfill. If you're a red state, let's work on your own state.
Great stuff. Thank you, my friend. Appreciate you.
See you later.
You bet. All right, gentlemen, final thoughts here. We got about 2 minutes left in the show. The floor belongs to each of you.
I think what you just uttered is an incredibly honest statement and incredibly mind-blowing. It doesn't matter. We're at an F minus. That is, as an American, that's tough to reconcile. That is really tough to reconcile. I know that's something I do Mortal Kombat internally with myself every day. That Fall of Rome stuff, it's not just a metaphor. You are here.
There's a dastardly poisonous cocktail of giving up, giving in, apathy because you have given up, apathy because you think things aren't as really bad as they are. That is manifest, as Daniel has articulated, that manifests itself everywhere, like everywhere. It's always been kind of a fact of Republican primaries that they are extremely low turnout. That's always true. I mean, even our caucus here in Iowa, it's low turnout when compared to the broader electorate. But in times such as these, I don't know if people have just become numb. I don't know what the contributing factor is for the checking out. And I'm not talking about the normies. I'm talking about Republican-aligned voters who are pretty typically reliable. I'm not sure why in these primaries, at a time like this, again, it's too much work to go Google a few candidates running for county supervisor, sheriff, state senator, state representative. I don't know how to break through that. I don't have any ideas either. I'm all ears, though.
I mean, we just need a George Soros, a Warren Buffett. Nothing having 4 or 5 billionaires who are hardcore right-wingers wouldn't solve. That's it. Romans 8:28.